What's up, guys? So in this video I'm going to try and show you some tips to make your rigging process a little quicker. First thing you want to make sure is that you're in cycles render. You need it to be in that for the baking of the textures. I already have my Machop imported here. So first thing you want to do is add the textures. So you go into your materials tab and you'll see that you have 3 materials here. So go ahead and click Use Nodes, Color, Image Texture. And then there should be a few loaded textures in here already. So you can just kind of click through those and see which one works. And make sure you're in Texture View. So that one looks like it's behind his eyes. I'll get to that in a minute. So just do that for the rest of them. There we go. Okay, so some of the Pokemon are going to have eyes like this. If you look closely, you can see that there's actually a complete different mesh kind of layered above his eyes. So you can just go ahead and get rid of that. So I'm going to go into face selection mode, use my C tool, and just get rid of all this. Alright, delete faces. Okay, so we don't need this material anymore, so let's get rid of that. And obviously he doesn't have any pupils, so we're gonna need to open, actually let's make sure we're on the eyes texture first. We're gonna need to open the merged eyes. So I'm gonna go into edit mode here, and in order to separate both of his arms, we can actually do that at the same time. So I'm going to just take my C selection tool here and choose a good spot to separate his arm. Okay, so now I'm going to go into wireframe mode, use box select B, select the rest of that there. Okay, and now what we can do is go down here to select and mirror. And that's going to mirror your selection across the x-axis. Now we can go over here to the select mirror options and click extend, and then there you go. That's all you have to do is hit P to separate your selection. And if we extend this over here, we can see that you have two objects now. And just like that, both of the sides of his body are done. So now we can go in here. You're going to need to fill these holes. Go into edge selection, hold Alt, and click one of the edges that surrounds that hole, and it's going to select all the edges around that. And then you just hit F and it fills it up. But that's kind of a sharp edge, so what you're going to need to do is extrude that out with E, and then you can click the middle mouse button to unlock it from that axis that it was on, and then click it again to find a different axis. So here we go, here's the x-axis. So we're just going to extrude that out just a tad, and then left click to confirm that, and then hit S to scale it down just a little bit, just to make it smooth, and then extrude that out again. Let's go back to the x-axis, here we go. Confirm, scale it down a little bit more. Okay, so that makes it just look a little bit smoother. And the cool thing about this symmetrical editing is if we just select, let's go into face selection mode, if we just select all these new faces that we made, and then go down to mesh and hit symmetrize, it'll completely add those faces to the other side of the symmetrical mesh. So you can do that for the arms too. You can do that for pretty much all the body parts. So let's go into edit mode here, edge selection, alt click F, extrude, x-axis. And for these arms, since he's in T pose, you're gonna have to create shoulders, because when these arms are rotated downwards, as if he was standing in a regular position, there will be these cutoffs, which I'll show you an example later, but we need to pretty much create his shoulders here. So we're gonna extrude it out a little bit more than normal, scale it just a little bit, and then just do the same thing a few times until we can get a nice, smooth, shoulder looking edge. Now what we can do is go into wireframe mode, make sure you're in face selection, hit the box selection tool, and just select the portion of his arm right here. Make sure you get all the new faces that you made. And then go to mesh, symmetrize, and then it'll symmetrize all the way to the other side. Now, you want to be careful when you do this, because you're going to create new vertices over the vertices that are already there. So select all of it. You can even see it right in there that it's kind of duplicated some of the vertices on top. So how you can fix that is just make sure everything's highlighted. You can click Control V to bring up the vertices menu, and click remove doubles, and that's going to remove 39 vertices just then, so you can see that it's all good now. Okay, and now select mirror and separate with P by selection, and then you'll just hide the rest of it, hide the rest of it, and then just continue doing exactly what we did for the shoulders. Whoops, make sure you don't move anything, because that'll make it a lot more difficult for you than it should be. So there we go. Alt select, fill with F, extrude just a little bit, scale it down, extrude again, scale it down again, and now you got a nice smooth elbow. And sometimes when you add new faces, the textures will get messed up, but most of the time, and in this case, everything's fine. So, and then you just select these and mirror it across again, and just repeat the process for the whole body. Okay, so you can see here that we now have this completed, rigged out Machop. All these parts are separate. So now all we need to do, we're pretty much ready to export, except for the textures. So any part of your body that has multiple textures on them is going to need to be baked. So for this example, the only one is going to be the head. So I'm just going to hide all these other parts and just leave the head. And how we want to do this is, first thing, go to the world tab and make sure your world color is completely white, or else your renders are going to turn out darker if it's a darker color. So after you have that, select the head, hit Shift D to duplicate it, and then right click to snap it back into its position. You can go ahead and rename this to head baked. Okay, and now go into your head's materials and remove all of them, and then create a new material and just leave it at that for now. Now come over here to your UV image editor. If you don't have that, just drag out a new window and choose UV image editor in the options down here. So now we're going to create a new image with this little plus button here. Call it head baked or whatever, and keep it at double the default. So let's make it 2048 by 2048 pixels. Hit OK. Alright, so now it's just a blank black texture. So now what we're going to do is go over to the head baked that you just duplicated. Go to edit mode, hit A to select everything, and hit U and Smart UV Project. And now you're going to want to add a little bit of island margin. I'd say maybe something around this, just a little bit. And everything else is okay, so hit OK. And it'll map out all the UVs for you on your new image. Save this image. Okay. We want to add that to our new head. So let's open Head Bake 2. Okay, so it should just be black. Alright, so now we're ready for baking. So what you want to do, you want to make sure you're in Cycles Render, which you should already be. And you want to select your first head and then hold shift and select the second one, so that way the head baked is your active selected object. Okay, so now let's go to the render tab, go all the way down to bake, make sure selected to active object is checked, and then your ray distance is 0.1, and your bake type should be diffuse. Okay, so now go ahead and click bake, and you'll get a little progress bar up here, and it should take just a little bit. Alright, so our baking just finished, and as you can see, here's our new image. So let's make sure everything's okay, so let's hide our original head, and everything looks good. One thing I forgot to mention before you do the bake, make sure all of your cameras, these little these restrict rendering cameras, are turned off, all of them except for your two heads, because if not, anything that's touching the textures, it's going to be completely black. So his entire neck right here would be black if those hadn't been turned off. Okay, so now we're ready to export. So go ahead and unhide everything except for the original head. You don't need that anymore, we just need the baked head. Okay, so you want to make sure that your rig has all of the same origin points. In this way, when you upload it to Roblox, you can use location data for it to just piece together automatically. So if we hit A and select everything, these little dots right here are the origin points. So we can see that the forearm here has a different origin point than the rest of the body. So we want all of the origin points to be the same. So in order to fix that, go ahead and click somewhere with your 3D cursor. There's fine. Hit Object, Transform, Origin to 3D cursor, and that's going to change all of your origins to that one spot. Okay, so now we can go ahead and export everything. So I just like to go down the line, click Head Baked, File, Export, FBX, and now you want to make sure that selected objects is checked. That way you only export whatever is selected. And your scale, you might want to change this to something along the lines of 0.05, just to make it a little bit smaller, because when you import it into Roblox, it's going to be fucking huge. So 0.05 will probably make it a little bit easier. Most of the time it's 100 times bigger than what you really want it to be. So this will make it about 5% as big as it would be if you were to import it. So now all these settings will be saved for each object you export. So now just go up here and name this just whatever object is selected. So I'm going to name it head. Click enter a couple times, and then just keep going down the line. So we got left foot here. I abbreviate all my names because it's a lot easier. So LF, file. And another easy thing to do is on your export here, right click on FBX, hit add shortcut, and you can create your own shortcut. I like to use shift/, and I mapped that to my mouse, so that makes it 10 times easier. So you just click on a part, click the mouse button, and then LF, left foot. Okay, and then you just keep going down the line like that. Okay, so now if we go into Roblox, we can go ahead and import our Pokemon. So I actually made this little template for importing them. if I go to my toolbox, models, R15 rig, okay. So this will have all the different parts for an R15 rig, which is what the Machop is. Here are all the different parts with the correct names. So now you can just go down the list, click head, and basically what this is just a bunch of mesh parts in the same exact spot. 15 mesh parts to be exact. So go ahead and import your mesh ID. Go to Machop head. And when it asks for your location data, click yes. Alright, so now go ahead and just keep going down. For the humanoid root part, I usually just make that the lower torso. Yes. Okay, so all of our parts are in, and they're in the exact spot that they were in Blender. So now what we can do is go ahead and add your textures. Add image. Head baked. Create. And there we go. Looks good. So now you just do that for the rest of the parts. Humanoid root part doesn't matter because it should be completely transparent anyway. So now we can go ahead and rotate all of these so that he's not in a T-pose. And I showed you earlier how to give him shoulders. This is actually an older version of the Machop that I created at another time, and you can see that it just looks really weird without him actually having a rounded off shoulder like that. It's more flat here. So in order to avoid that, just make sure to extend this area out just a little bit more. This is just a really quick demonstration. But let me show you how this works. So if I just click play, we can see that if we go into the workspace, we can see our player right here. And if we scroll down, we can see that the animate script is in here. So if we just copy this, hit stop, and then paste it into our rig, as long as it has all the same parts, this animation script should work with our guy. Alright, so now we're in a different project. We have our Machop here all rigged out. If I select him with the character creator plugin and hit edit, we can see that he's got all his joints in the right spots. And if we paste that R15 animation script into his rig right here, we can actually take this, copy it, come over to the starter player, let's get rid of this, and paste it into that and name it starter character. So now we should be able to hit play, and just using that animation script, I'm gonna raise his hip height a little bit to maybe 1. Okay, now let's see. There we go. That's better. So now we can see with just the R15 default animation script, you can literally walk around as our Pokemon, and it looks pretty decent. And we can still do slight adjustments to any animations that we want by going into the animation editor up here. And the same thing works with the R6 models too, even the ones with 4 legs. I use the R6 animation script in this guy because he only has 6 parts: a head, a torso, and 4 legs. Okay, so if I copy this guy, and as long as he's rigged right, everything should move just as they would on the Roblox character, except his front 2 legs are just going to mimic the front 2, or the 2 arms on the R6 model. So as long as the motor 6 is rotated in the right way, these legs will rotate in the correct. So as long as the motor 6s are So if I go into edit here, you can see the R6s, and as long as each one of these is rotated in the correct direction, then these legs are going to move how they should in an actual 4-legged animal.